Hi, my name is Liam Paynter, and this is my time at Outcry Theatre. Let's get started. The Madness of Edgar Allan Poe was my first time acting ever. What an incredible show to have as your first ever experience with such an incredible group of peers. Really just a generational cast, if you will. So many talented people that I looked up to and learned so much from in this show. It's an original play written by Becca and Jason, which are always my favorites. And it really showed the energy of Outcry and brought me into this place and made me want to do all of these shows going forwards. I played various ensemble, including a police officer and an insane man who thought he was a bottle of champagne and went off with a pop and a fizz, like this. Perhaps the best part of the show. And then we have The Little Prince. This show, unfortunately, was somewhat complicated by the COVID-19 pandemic. It was a really great process, and then tragedy struck. We had to rearrange a lot of things. A few people, unfortunately, had to drop, but we came back together and we did the thing. I met my best friend, Everett Johnson, during the show. We were doubles as the king, and we spoke like Edwin. We went, "Tithika-tithk." That's not what I want. Something along those lines. We were a king who didn't really know what it was like to be kingly on our little meteor. And once again, such a great group of people who were so dedicated throughout the really great challenge that it was to redo this show, given all the new restrictions with COVID. The Night Fairy was my third show. I like to say it's where I peaked. It's not true, but I like to say that. I played Scuggle the Squirrel, who is this cherry-obsessed, very selfish squirrel who is roped into these shenanigans with helping Flory the Night Fairy. I got to work with, again, a spectacular cast of people. It was a very small cast. These previous shows were quite ensemble heavy, and I got to work with a lot of people. This was a lot more intimate, and so I got to work very closely with a lot of people. And this is where I feel like acting really started to make sense for me. I got a lot of really great direction and one-on-one time with Jason and my fellow actors, and it really clicked on how to make a character appear on the stage and to bring it to life and make theater feel real and magical, even though I'm just a goofy squirrel doing goofy squirrel things. Next up was my first ever musical, Frozen Jr. I was so scared to do a musical. I'm not a singer. I certainly was not a singer when this was going on. And it took a lot of convincing from many interested parties to have me do this show. And I'm so glad that I did it, because musicals are so fun. It's so fun to do musicals. And I would never have done it if I didn't do this show. I played Kristoff, very buddy-buddy with Sven. Vidisha did a fantastic job in that show. I think our relationship was super fun. Miss Cindy was the music director, and I've worked with her so many times since then, and doing that show with her was so incredible. She was so helpful for a kid who knew nothing about music to guide me along and teach me the ropes and have me do all this incredible stuff in the show. Next up, we have The Witches. I played Bruno, who some might say had some aspects of my personality to him. He was quite loud, maybe a little bit obnoxious. He liked food, etc. It was my first time being doubles with Nate Oldham, who I was then doubles with again in the future, and we'll get to that. And again, he's so great, and he's still doing shows here, and I love working with him. And that show was just so fun. We were still using face shields at that time. And one of my favorite moments in the show was when we were eating a Twinkie on stage. And mid-bite, Boy, who is the main character, would push us, and we would just get the Twinkie all over our face and face shield, and we'd have that mess on us. And I remember distinctly, Nate went to me after tech, and he said, "I'm never having a Twinkie again. I don't think I can handle it." Roald Dahl, what a great series of plays that I got to do many of in my formative years at Outcry. Now we have my first Becca show, which was The Diviners. I was not ready for this in any way whatsoever. I was single cast as Basil, who is this sort of town doctor, farm guy. It was a lot. It was the most lines I'd ever had in this show, and it was dramatic for the most part. It's a very intense show too. The subject matter was very dark and very serious, and it was an avenue of acting that I hadn't really got to explore yet. A lot of the shows previously, they're very lighthearted, they're comedies, and even the dramatic moments, the stakes aren't incredibly high. But this show, the stakes were high. It really showed me that theater can explore a lot about the human condition and the struggles that we have. This was really when that group of people who I had come up with started being like these really, really big figures on how I would later become an actor. And this was when I was really taking in what they were doing and learning from them. Going back to the younger group though, my next show was Charlotte's Web, where I, Liam Paynter, 6'3" by the way, played the runt of the litter, Wilbur. This show was really fun. I got to work with a lot of really great people again. Madeline Knopf, who I've been doing shows with ever since Frozen, I believe, and is currently my double in my current show. We'll get to that at the end. Morgan as well was in that show. Nate Oldham was my double again. This was the first and I think only show that I didn't get to do both weekends of, so I had performance conflicts for the first time, and that was really kind of scary. Quintessential Jason show of all these young kids coming together and putting on a show and having just a lot of fun. Next up is Annie Jr., so my next musical. I played Daddy Warbucks in this one, and I had insisted that I shave my head for this production. Now, apparently, Mr. J didn't think this was quite a great idea, so I said, okay. I'll do a bald cap instead. And that's what I did for my audition. I sent in a recording with a bald cap on, which I think landed me the part, really. But for some reason, I didn't get to wear it in the show. Whatever. Next up, we have the fantastic Mr. Fox. I played the titular fantastic Mr. Fox in this, and I had a lot of fun. I sweat a lot, because I was wearing a corduroy suit. And those who know me know that I don't agree with suits. But playing an animal is super fun. I didn't mention it with the last few shows where I did play animals, but getting to do that physicality and really immerse yourself in that character is super fun as an actor. I think it's really great actually when you're first kind of starting out in those early years to push the boundaries of what you can do and really force yourself to get out of your comfort zone, which is another really great thing that I found at Outcry. I'm always pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. Never once have I been in a show and been like, oh yeah, this is totally exactly something I've done before and I'm super comfortable and I'm not challenged whatsoever. No, every single time I know that I'm getting better because I'm doing something brand new. Next we have The Picture of Dorian Gray, my next Becca show. And again, really big switch up in tone. This is another original adaptation that Miss Becca and Mr. J wrote from the Oscar Wilde novel. I really, really love this show to this day. I read the novel afterwards, and they did such a great job bringing it to the stage. That's like a really big, strong suit of the original shows here at Outcry, is taking the source material and transforming it in like a meaningful and really beautiful way. Really great show. Stretched my dramatic acting muscles once again, putting me outside my comfort zone. And such incredibly talented people in that show as well that I steal bits and pieces from, and that makes me a great actor now, if I may say so myself. Next up, we have Sunday in the Park with George. Now this show for me, not my best performance. I played the boatman, who you drawing? Who the hell you think you're drawing? Me? Sondheim is hard. And as I'll reiterate, I'm not a singer. So the music was very difficult for me. And the acting, because the boatman is this very disgruntled, kind of cynical old man who's smoking a pipe. I don't smoke pipes, so that was hard for me. I was never quite happy with my performance in this show, but it pushed me. And I'm glad that I did it because I came out a better actor for it. I can reflect on the show and know that, even though it wasn't where I wanted it to be, it was the best that I could have done. And it's such a beautiful show too. I think if you're an artist in any capacity, you can really relate to this show. I think about the struggles of being an artist and the strain it can put on your relationships, but also like the lasting power of art and how it can transform lives far into the future. So it was very meaningful to do this show. Next was Anne of Green Gables, and this, I think, was the first ever original adaptation that was a musical. It was written, or adapted, I should say, by Mr. J. This was great. I played Matthew Cuthbert, who is the adoptive father figure to Anne. And this was one of the more dramatic parts that I got to play for Mr. J, one of the more like intimate, less over-the-top characters, which I didn't get to do often when I was doing shows for Mr. J. I was usually some anthropomorphic animal, doing some crazy thing. But in this, I got to play this like really loving and kind parental figure who unfortunately passes away. I think this is the first show where I did die on stage. And my dad actually had a very hard time with that. This was around the time that my grandfather was diagnosed with ALS, which is a degenerative muscle disease. And, seeing a father figure who cared for this child passing away was very tough for him. And even to this day, whenever I pass away in a show, it really affects him. And that's an example of how meaningful and how impactful art can be. It's a mirror of the real world. Next we have Hamlet, which is also a very sad show. This was my first ever Shakespeare, and I was terrified to do Shakespeare. I would even say that I was a self-proclaimed Shakespeare hater before I did this show. And it changed my tune a lot. I now love Shakespeare. I would do Shakespeare all the time if I could. I played Laertes, another dramatic performance for me, and maybe the most difficult because this had to deal a lot with grief and anger and these very powerful emotions on stage. And I had such incredible scene partners to help me bring that to life. It was really great. So again, a really great cast of people who just make these shows so incredible. Next is Matilda Jr., which unfortunately was my last show with Mr. J, but it was also my 10th show, so I got to get my silver plate in. Every 5 shows, you get a plate for each of the directors. It's a fun little tradition we have here at Outcry. I have them all displayed above my wall in my room. I played Trunchbull. And it's so fun getting to play a female. Guys don't very often get to play female parts. And so Trunchbull, who is traditionally played by a guy, was very fun. And I got to yell at children in this show, which they were friends, and I love them all dearly. But I did enjoy yelling at them. The music was really good, actually, and I really enjoyed singing it. And it was really great working on the part with Mr. J as my last show. It was very bittersweet. Yeah, it was so great, such a great process to go out on. Next up, we have Puffs. Puffs is where I met some of my best friends to this very day. This is where I first met Apache Brown and Parker Lindsay. They played Cedric Diggory and Oliver Rivers, respectively. One of the lines in the show between Wayne and Oliver is, "We are going to be so cool." And we would pose like this, and we talked about how we would be best friends. How little we knew how true that would become, because we are so cool. And we are best friends. Puffs is a really great example of the community that is built at Outcry. I've never seen a theater where people have felt so close and like genuinely really enjoy each other's company even outside of the theater. That works so well on stage because this chemistry is there, you're all actually friends, and the shows benefit so much from that because everyone is so diligent and they have so much fun, and that is like the perfect storm to create a fantastic show. All these people cared so much, and we all came together and like clicked in this really great way. And this was like the start of a new era at Outcry with all of us, and it was just really fantastic. So yeah, Puffs live in my heart forever. Next up, we have Willy Wonka. When we had the show announced, I was told that I would definitely start needing voice lessons. I'm not a singer. But I did start taking voice lessons for this show, and thank God I did, because I played Willy Wonka, and I had to sing that thing. This show was very challenging for me, because who can play Willy Wonka better than Gene Wilder, right? Like no one. No one can really play that part better. But I was doubled with Brady Beckley in this show. Outcry Goat, this like incredible singing voice, and it was so great working with him because I always felt the need to like push myself further and further and further to like match his vocal capability and like push myself in every other area. I would go back and play this part again because I feel like I could do Gene Wilder more justice now. But I'm very happy with how that show went. We're not going to talk about the "you'll get no" incident. We're not going to talk about that. Next up, we have A Midsummer Night's Dream, which was my next Shakespeare show, and my return to playing anthropomorphic animals, which is really just my bread and butter, as we can tell. This was so great. I played Nick Bottom. One of the greatest bits in the show, because it was so full of comedic moments because all of these people were so great, was when we asked for a portrait from the audience, and we would go around and we'd be like, "Hey, portrait, portrait." People didn't really get it, so Everett would always go, "iPhone Google, iPhone Google, iPhone Google," and we took their phone and we took a selfie, all of us, with them, which is really great. And had a really great time delving into the text of the show. Shakespeare was always a very hard time with the text, and everyone handled it super well. Bottom dies, not for real, in a play within a play. And I remember I was like, man, how are we going to make this funny without fake blood? Because we weren't allowed to use fake blood in the space. Very reasonable. Well, we devised like a 5-minute long death sequence with various props and gratuitous screaming. We had streamers and this like mouth thing that I would pull, and it was multicolored. It's like what clowns use. And I pulled a beating heart out of my chest, and I had this fabric in my pants, and I would go, "Ah!" and I would pull it out, and I would die, and then I would go, "Ah!" and I was alive again, then I would die again, then I'm alive again, and then I try to kiss Nate. Nate, I'm sorry, I know you didn't like that. And I didn't think we could do it, but we did it. It was fantastic. Next up, we have Outcry's first ever community show, which was Oliver. This was super, super sick to be a part of. I played Mr. Sourberry, but I was also a dance captain. Me and Olivia were dance captains for the show, so as the process went on, we would learn all the choreo for every single part, and then we would go through and we would make sure that everyone knows it, and et cetera, you know, dance captain duties. It was really, really fun having that extra responsibility on top of all like the ensemble work, because the ensemble made this show. It was just so fantastic. Oliver's just a really great show in general. I think the music is really fantastic and the story is very good. All the characters are super likable, and I think that's why it was such a great pick for the community show, because we brought in a lot of people who were brand new. We brought in a lot of parents and family members who obviously can't do the youth shows, but were happy to do the community show that was open to all ages, and that was really great. It brought us all closer together. So you know how I said Matilda was my last show with Mr. J? I lied. James and Giant Peach Jr. was technically my last show with Mr. J, but I wasn't acting in it. This was the first and only time so far that I was on the other side of the directorial process. I was assistant director for this show, and I wore a couple hats. I helped choreograph a few things. I directed a little bit. I helped cast the show, which was really great seeing how that aspect works. It gave me a lot of insight into the other side of the show process. It was really, really fun. This was a 2-week process, and it was a lot of work doing these like all day long rehearsals with a lot of, you know, little kids who are super restless and super energetic, but also super willing to do the thing, which we love. And it came together really, really well. Very, very talented group of people doing this show in a very short amount of time. I'm always so impressed with how we managed to pull together these like 2 to 3 week long shows. It's always really insane. I also ran mics for this show, which was tricky. That's not easy. That's really hard balancing. And so that was another really great experience, learning the technical aspect of the show. I will never take any tech aspect for granted, ever again. Next we have Our Town. I love Our Town, and I love the stage manager, who is the part that I played in the show. This was probably the most challenging role that I had played yet. I never left the stage for the most part. It's a 3-act show, so from the first moment of the first act to the last moment of the last act, I am mostly on stage. I think I only exited twice. And a lot of that is, you know, standing around and staying in the action, but a lot of it is also like 3-page long monologues, which I had never gotten to do before. And Becca's interpretation of the character was really, really cool, because instead of, you know, typically it's like an old man, he's dressed in like a beige suit, he's a little bit boring. Our stage manager had guy liner and like a studded jacket, and would open the play by saying, "This play is called Our Town." And he would make you know that he meant business. And it was super fun because, you know, getting to play something outside the norm of what is expected is always super exciting and invigorating. And we do that pretty often, actually, with characters and concepts in shows. We do things outside of maybe like what the traditional sense is, which is always super, super fun. The show, it's sad. You know, it's a thinker. It was another one of those shows that kind of sat with me after I did it. I walked away from it thinking a little bit differently about, you know, life and your relationship with others and how it's fleeting, right? I mean, it's going to end, and eventually people will forget. And it's sad, right? But it's the reality. And like I said earlier, theater's a bit of a mirror to reality, and sometimes you have to confront the harsher truths. And I'm really glad that we did the show, because it made you see that truth. Jekyll and Hyde was our next show. Another original adaptation. It wasn't the musical, it was a straight play written by Becca and Jason. And like I said earlier, I absolutely love their adaptations. They're always super fun. Unfortunately, I had an accident during this show. I did a little kick, and my knee did a little oopsie, and then I found myself on the stage floor looking up at the stage lights, and I could not stand up. I dislocated my knee on stage in front of a sold-out crowd. It just like really sucked, because more than the pain, it's really embarrassing having people you know watch you try to crawl off stage in vain. Poor Parker tried to help me up, and I was like, no, it's not happening. I went to a hospital. My parents were an hour away, so it was just me and Becca in the hospital for a while, and I'm sitting there thinking, man, what are we gonna do? Because I was single cast in the show as Dr. Jekyll, and you know, legs are important for the theater, for the most part. And all I was thinking about was that I didn't want to not do the show. It was opening night. We got like halfway through Act 1, no one had seen this story, and I really wanted it to happen because people had put so much work into this. Parker was playing Mr. Hyde, and I had watched him go from being very confused and having, you know, trouble with this text to creating a brilliant, dramatic, and genuinely like scary performance. And I was like, I don't want that to go to waste. And everyone else had put in the same amount of effort to create this really spectacular show. And here I am, big old loser with a dislocated knee, ruining it for everyone. So I was like, no, 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 Miss Becca, I'm going on. And so I got my knee reset. I got a little brace going. I got some crutches. They offered me morphine. I said no. I regretted that. It hurt a lot. And the next day, we showed up to the theater. We reblocked everything. I mostly just stood behind a table and I leaned on it. And I was like, this is my life now. Occasionally, I would use my crutches and I would go downstage and I would yell at someone and then I would go back upstage. But we made the show happen. It was really, really great. It was probably the most dramatic performance I had ever done. Shout out to everyone in Jekyll and Hyde who did not give up on me and spent that like 6-hour tech rehearsal reblocking the entire show. Just fantastic, all of you. Next up, we have Into the Woods, where I played the baker, and this was probably one of my favorite musicals I ever did. Now, it was a Sondheim, and I'm not a singer, but I had taken some voice lessons by then, so I wasn't that bad. This was the first time, I believe, that I acted opposite Carson Schaffhauser, who I'm about to go to school with for the next 4 years, which is absolutely insane. And Maddie McInnes was her double, and they were both so incredible in their parts as the baker's wife. Parker played both the narrator and the old man. The old man is the baker's father, and the narrator in our production is the baker's son, who was born in the show. And it was a really great concept that we did, was that we had the same actor playing both the narrator and the old man, but also the narrator was wearing the same jacket that I was wearing. And so it was kind of like that hint that he was the grown-up son and that he was like going through the story and telling it. It was really great. I really enjoyed the concept of that show. Next, we have Peter and the Starcatcher, which was kind of a musical. So say it with me. I'm not a singer. But this is my first time working with Parker Lesman instead of Miss Cindy. Up to this point, it's been Miss Cindy. And he was also fantastic. He's so funny. I love working with him. And he really helped me out in the higher singing sections. But in this show, I played a Blackstash who was Captain Hook before he loses his hand. And this is the part that I want to play forever for the rest of my life. I'm wearing the bracelets that I wore in the show right now, my little souvenir bracelets for my costume. This part is going to live inside of me forever. I loved it so much, and I had such a great time in this show. Madeline and Neum were my SMEs, and they were so funny, and I had such a great amount of bits with them. Madeline carried me on her back, which was so cool. Neum dragged me, which is also, what a great picture. It's a really great show where the ensemble is also like the set, and they're also actors. It's very Brechtian, which is like Becca's bread and butter with a lot of these shows, and it's really great doing shows like that. But yeah, Peter and the Starcatcher is one of my all-time favorite shows, and if you offered me the chance to play this part again, I would say yes, no hesitation. I loved Blackstash, and I loved this process. Next up, we have our second ever community show, which was Seussical, the musical, in which I played Horton the Elephant, which my voice teacher said made sense because he's big. Joseph Jones, how I love you. This was a musical, and I'm not gonna say that I wasn't a singer, because I thought I did really good in this show. I think I sang quite well, and even though Olivia will say that I messed up that harmony a few times, she's lying, and I did okay. The show was so fun. There was this moment in Alone in the Universe, which is this duet between Horton and JoJo, where we had these pairs of wings fly down and frame us for this moment. And it was honestly very complicated to set up, and it only lasted for a few seconds, but it was beautiful, and I loved it. And the Cat in the Hat in this show was, again, a little bit non-traditional. It was very punk rock. He was spray painting the set every time we changed scenes. It was such a cool concept, and I think people loved it so much. I cried on stage every night when I sang Solace Salute. It was so beautiful. And even though it's an adaptation of a Dr. Seuss book, I think it has like so much beauty and truth in it about believing in yourself when no one else does, and like found family, and always sticking with what you know is right, even when the world is against you. And it was so fun. The next show is Julius Caesar, but with zombies. I played Brutus. It was really cool how this process like shaped out, because it is crazy how well the text lends itself to a zombie apocalypse. I feel like most people wouldn't see that, but Becca did. And Becca was like, you know how sick it would be to have like zombies at the fall of Rome? That would be pretty sweet. And we were all like, yeah, that would be pretty sweet. And so we killed a bunch of zombies in Caesar, and a lot of people got killed by zombies in Caesar. I've never been covered in so much blood. Next up was A Monster Calls, where I played the titular monster. This show was tough in a lot of ways. On an acting level and like a physical level, playing the monster is tough. Big voice, big physicality. We had a big headdress that we had to balance on our head, and these crazy gloves. The costuming was very cool. Another aspect I should mention actually about Outcry in general is the costuming is always very on point. Our volunteers are fantastic about getting like the perfect costume pieces. It is kind of like magic. But in this show, dealing with that, and also we had an off night where we played a whole entirely separate character. And on our on night, we also played the dad. So it was like playing 3 characters in one, which was really sick, but also very challenging. And then the subject matter is also very heavy. The show is about a mother who is dying of cancer, and her teenage son going through the acceptance of that fact. And there was not a single show that did not end with the audience sobbing. I was holding back tears every night. I know a lot of my scene partners were also holding back tears. And the show was especially impactful for Becca because she had gone through a battle with cancer as well, and we had lost one of our very close friends and family member, Katie Gallo, to cancer around the same time. It was really tough on all of us to go through that. And this show was actually a really nice way to kind of get that out there and show how difficult it is to grieve. And I know everyone will go through this, and it is such a prevalent part of life. And it's another one of those things that no one likes to talk about, but it's really important to understand. And the show brought that out to people. Very, very tough show, but very, very fulfilling. And I'm really glad that I got to do it. On a much lighter note, the next show was the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, in which I played William Barfay. It's not Barfee, it's Barfay. This show was so fun. The most difficult part was the choreography for my number, which was the magic foot. That is how William Barfay spells, is with his magic foot. It was so fun tackling the physicality and the voice of this character and going into it with a genuinely incredible cast in so many ways. This show's so fun, getting those audience volunteers up on that stage and acting with them and having them spell words. It's so good. It's such a great show. 10 out of 10, would do again. Next up, we have Cyrano de Bergerac. This show was really, really important to me and Parker, who was my double. He really loved Cyrano. Cyrano was super fun and challenging, bringing this character to life for a few different reasons. One, he's this like larger-than-life character who is also very, very real feeling, and it's hard to kind of balance that like legend and regular person and make it feel balanced and real on that stage. Also, we had to wear a prosthetic, which I think was the first time I ever had to really deal with a prosthetic, and we had this super long nose that we would spirit gum down. We had to deal with the entire time. The show was really great, working with Parker and Becca so closely on the part of Cyrano and making him feel so real and grounded, and balancing the man with the myth and the legend that is Cyrano de Bergerac. Made my dad cry again when I died. Call back to that. I went out to the lobby and he was sobbing and he was like, "No, you didn't get me, I'm good." But I know I did. Next up was Shrek the Musical, which is our most recent community show in which I played Lord Farquaad. The show was super fun and very, very interesting because Farquaad was on his knees the entire time. And that's interesting as someone who usually towers over a lot of the people on stage, doing these scenes where I am roughly 4 feet tall, maybe, if I'm really pushing it, waddling around and still having to give this like very big and full character-driven performance. It was really kind of a challenge and a very, very fun opportunity to play that part. And obviously doing it with the community is always so, so fun. It's really great seeing the parents and people who don't typically do shows really like jump into it and do what their kids have been doing and like really enjoy it to the fullest. And having a lot of these younger kids be leaders and hold people accountable and do things. Alexis, she's really great, leader Outcry. She was holding extra rehearsals during Shrek for dances and numbers for all the adults to come in and practice, which she didn't have to do, but she did. And that's a really good example of how fantastic the communities at Outcry, that we care so much about each other and we want the show to be the absolute best that it can be. And now we come to my final show, which is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. We are still rehearsing for the show at the moment. Me and Parker begged Miss Becca to do this show for like a year and a half. I'm Rosencrantz, and he's Guildenstern. But most people get that confused. Tom Stopper's a genius. I love this script, and I've had so much fun playing this part with the cast, and again with Becca, who we work so closely with during the process. It's so great getting to play these parts because a lot of it is just kind of like sitting around and not really doing anything, which sounds, I know what that sounds like, but I swear it's really interesting and fun. And so you get a lot of like freedom with what you do with the space. A lot of the time a show is like, you know, oh, this happens, that happens. All of the action on the stage follows with the plot of the show. But in this show, it's very like kind of up to your interpretation with what you do. So it's been really interesting seeing how the action has developed throughout the blocking process, and how the characters are reacting to living in the space and dealing with the existential absurdism of being characters trapped on a stage in a show that they know nothing about. It's really, really quite brilliant. I'm so excited to do it. Please buy tickets. Tickets are on sale. They are going to be in the link down below. Click in the description. Buy tickets right now. I don't know if that's true, but I hope it will be. Come see Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. It's going to be so fun. And I'll be upset if you don't, because it's my last Outcry show, and I'm going out with a bang, and I want you to be there. So that's the end. That is all 30 shows that I have done at Outcry Youth Theatre, starting in the summer, fall of 2019, and now ending at the end of the summer and the beginning of fall of 2026. It's been a fantastic 7 years, and I'm gonna miss this place so much. But I'm so glad that I have been here. I've learned so much from the incredible directors and fellow actors that I've been working with. There's really nowhere better to to become an actor and learn this craft and hone your skills, because everyone really cares about you here. And they're gonna push you hard, and they're gonna make you do things that maybe you don't wanna do, but you are going to come out better for it, and you're gonna have such a great time, and you're gonna meet so many great people who are going to be in your lives and just make you whole forever. So that was my time at Outcry Youth Theatre. It's been a good run.